Fakusa, I've been here for quite some time. I've been for 9 years in this country. I've been in the business for the last 15 years. I'm pretty excited about this presentation in particular. It's going to be something different. I promise you something you probably haven't seen before. And I promise you're going to come out of it with few interesting formulas. You will be using it for the rest of your life. So I guarantee you that. Most importantly, listen in, and if you have any questions, please let me know. All right? We might end up having a quick exercise that I will be so happy to work out with you. And if we won't have the time for it, because there's a lot of information going on, we can do the exercise live together. But I will need some interaction from you to make the most out of it. All right? So we need to get some few facts straight before we get things moving. And disclaimer, I don't want anybody to be upset of what I'm going to say, okay? Because I have to be speaking openly for this message to come across the way it should be. All right? So there are 3 types of lighting design ever existed. All right? The first one, which has been from forever, was the daylight. Right? Daylight has been for a very, very, very long time, since ancient times. And then comes the stage and theatrical lighting. And this is somehow went to the pioneer or the premium version of it around the 1816, 1820. Right? So this is almost 200 something years ago. And this where the beginning of lighting design happened. Right? And then only around 60, 70 years ago became the architectural lighting design. Architectural lighting design was derived from the theatrical lighting design, the entertainment lighting design. That's the origin of it, okay? And comes in the exterior lighting, interior lighting, and so on. So, what is architectural lighting design? There are facts. This is something I'm not making it up here, all right? So here, by definition, what does it mean? Right, so it is the field within the architecture, interior, or electrical engineering that involves lighting systems, all right, that controls natural light or electric light or both to serve the human needs. That is, by definition, architectural lighting design. That's not a made-up sentence. That's a true fact. The other true fact that the aim of lighting design is for the human response to clearly see without discomfort, to further the design of architecture and the experience of a building. All right? This is the fundamental essence of architectural lighting design. Right? There is another quote which I really like a lot. It says, lighting design integrates the art, science, and business of lighting design, all right? But it's far beyond the visibility and the horizontal light levels, okay? It's not about the light levels only, it has way more than that. But these are all basics, and we heard that a lot, so I will try to ramp it up a little bit and talk a little bit more serious. So why lighting is important? So there are 2 things that any space requires, either performance or aesthetics or both, all right? Think of going to a coffee place, you grab your own coffee, give you the adrenaline or the caffeine you need, you're good to go. Would you come back to the same coffee shop again? Maybe yes, maybe no. So now somehow you need a little bit more excitement to even your cup of coffee, so you come in again and enjoy it, whether it's a Starbucks, whether it's Illy, whatever that might be. All right? So this is the kind of aesthetic element that you need to bring to the performance. Okay? So when it comes to any building or any space, one part is the performance, and what I mean by performance, I mean light levels, I mean safety and security, I mean energy efficiency, I mean code compliance, the blah, 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 the engineering part of it, okay? Which is very important, very crucial, but it's not all about that. And cost control. Now, this is the part of the performance of any space you go to, even the space we're in right now. You need light levels so we're able to see each other. That is one. Now comes the aesthetic part of any space we're in. We start by promoting well-being. This is a language, we start talking about language far away from the electrical engineers. And all the respect with the electrical engineers in-house here, it is not the case. Secondly, enhance materials. Thirdly, flexible design and scene settings. Fourth is visual hierarchy. You see the language start to change from your typical language you got about lighting. And fifth will be enhance the user experience. So here we talk about user experience. Where I'm standing here, the way I'm talking to you, how I'm interacting with you right now, I'm getting engagement from most of you right now. This is the kind of user experience I'm talking about. So, do I need really a lighting design for my projects? What do you guys think? Many people say, no need, why would I pay the extra buck? So let's see if that makes sense or not. So if you have a space like this, it's a warehouse, it's a facility area, purely functional, you don't need beyond the light levels in the space, maybe not. If it's a back of house area that is purely for function, safety, security, probably don't need a lot of design. It's a utilitarian place, not really. I want to make sure that safety, for the carriers and the drivers passing across, that is the paramount element, okay? But when we have a project that lighting can make it or break it, then it's another story. What do I mean by making it or break it? How to make a project from being a normal project to being an exceptional project. Whether it's going to be for facade lighting, whether it's going to be for landscape, whether it's going to be for architecture, lighting, or it's going to be just simply hospitality. All of us have been to a hotel at some point, or a restaurant, or a bar, beauty salon, museums, retail, and even kids' hospitals. This is where you start to realize, hang on for a second, lighting is just not an element of function in the space. It's a little bit beyond that, okay? So, to reach that level of success and impact on a project, you need someone. You need someone who can make the change, can make that project interesting, unique, one of a kind. And this person, or this entity, or this firm, needs to be competent enough in the technical characteristics of light. That's one. Number two, can communicate and coordinate with all the disciplines. Three, fully aware of the lighting equipment and the lighting industry globally. Four, need to understand and design according to the project budget. Five, they need to know what is the true value of value engineering without compromising the design. Human behavior, I need to know how people behaving in every single space. People behave in hospital different than in office, different than in a hotel, and so on. And you need to understand the project challenges. There are so many challenges, we're going to go quickly through it. And most importantly, you need to be creative and well experienced to deliver something that is unique and exceptional, right? So this comes to the lighting designer role. But it's a word that has been misused for so many years by so many different people. And I hope this will be the beginning of the end to clarify this once and for all. So, who on earth is a lighting designer? It has been a question, it has been a debate. We've been trying, I'm a lighting designer, I'm not a lighting designer. What does it take to be a lighting designer? Does this even profession exist, or it doesn't make any sense? All right? So, let me walk you through it and see if that makes sense or not. That's my opinion, but based on a lot of studies, and I'm happy to debate any of you after the session. So there are a few basics to call yourself or your firm a lighting consultancy or lighting design firm. Number one, you need to have the knowledge of lighting, right? And knowledge can be by education, by certain, you don't have to have a degree in it, but you need to have a significant amount of knowledge in the profession. Number two, you need to have, the second one is the education. The first one is the knowledge, the general knowledge of lighting. The second is the actual education. Third, you need to have a design and construction experience. You cannot be just fresh graduate coming off school and you say, I'm a designer, give me a project, I can do it for you. You need to have a certain level of experience. Fourth, you need to have a taste, because I cannot hire anybody to do any sort of project. I need to have someone who can complement with their taste my design and my project. Another, I need to have a character. It's not always you need to go this way, that way. Lighting designer is not so established profession for so many years, so you need to have a character to overcome that and drive the design. You need to have a communication and presentation skills, because if you can't, you're sitting behind a desk and with no really impact on any project. You need to have integrity, and integrity, I'm going to focus on it over and over and over here, because it has been really misunderstood over the years, and I'm going to go in details on what does this mean. But I get it. Lighting designer needs to have certain qualifications. Big deal. Now, what lighting designer can actually add? So they speak a different language, maybe they do. Here are some languages and some words. Neither electrical engineer talks by himself, or interior designer does talk by themselves. So, if I'm a lighting designer, here are the few words or few languages I can speak. Number one, I can speak materials. I know what are the materials, what are the colors, the reflectance of colors, and so on. Number two, I know all sorts of colors, and I know what the effect of certain light on my body, effect of light on certain materials, and so on. Third will be the quality. Word quality is missed in so many of the projects. Fourth will be the cost. I need to be regulating my design to match a certain cost. Fifth, installation. I need to know how to install things properly. So I'm not just a designer, I'm also a contractor for a big part of my design. Fifth or sixth, user experience, as I mentioned before. Seventh, something called visual comfort. Visual comfort is not a language you typically hear from an interior designer or an architect or an electrical engineer. Lighting designer speaks it. Mood, setting the mood. This is something interior designer speaks, but the electrical engineers not so much. This is where we come in play. Then comes the excitement, where I can create a thrill to the space. So you can come in again. So it's not just the cup of coffee, it's the cup of coffee I'm going to keep coming over and over and over again, right? Controls and scene settings, right? How the mood again, how to create the scene settings, like in all hotels, particularly 5 stars or 6 stars hotels. The technology, I need to be updated with all the technologies about lighting. At the end of the day, lighting is an electronic. So I need to be very aware and up to date with all the technologies. And then last but not least is health and well-being. If you guys stay under this light for quite some time, will this affect your body or not? Will that be damaging your performance at work or not? I need to know that. Interior designer doesn't know that. Architect doesn't know that. Electrical engineer doesn't know that. Doctors know that. Lighting designers know that. All right? So, how many types of lighting designers are there? Are there types of lighting designers? Right? This has been, again, a debate, and a lot of people told me, do not touch base on that, but there are types of lighting designers. Okay? And these are true facts. We better speak it out loud than just try to pretend it's not there. So, number one, you have lighting suppliers or manufacturers. They have lighting design departments in many of them, right? So, what are the pros of lighting designers within a lighting manufacturer or a lighting supplier? Number one, there is no visible cost of the design, all right? Second, they give you continuous support because they want to make sure that the work is done, everybody's happy, the client is happy, the entire design teams are happy, so they give you exceptional support throughout. And then they are very familiar with the products they present. That's why when they put a product up front, usually it is very good product given certain parameters of the performance. Now, the cons. The con is that there is no really open bid to allow for the pricing to go down. So if I'm a supplier or if I'm a manufacturer and I'm designing, I'm really not allowing for 4 or 5 brands to compete with me. Hence, I am the only manufacturer or only supplier in a project, so I maintain the cost of a project being relatively high. And you need that kind of competition to try to bring and balance the cost down, right? The more lights, the better. At the end of the day, it's a supplier or a distributor, and normally it is their end goal to distribute light and supply lights, right? So the more lights, the better. Limited design experience and creativity, and it is not an insult. On the contrary, what I'm saying is they have certain limits. They have a toolkit that they need to work with, which doesn't give them a chance to explore other brands that might be beneficial for the project, for the well-being, for. So that has certain limitations when it comes to the design. And lastly, the product selection is within their bag, all right? Nothing beyond that. And the world of lighting is massive. That is type number one. Type number two is in-house lighting designer. What does it mean in-house lighting designer? I'm a big architecture firm and I have a small department which has a lighting consultant in it, and these guys doing their job in-house. So, what are the pros of these people? Number one, no visible design fees because you're paying the architecture firm. You're not paying a design department within the architecture firm. Number two, they're going to give you, again, the full continuous support. Number three, because I am in-house, I can keep doing coordination over and over with all the other disciplines. So it's very valuable and useful for my projects as well, right? Now look at the cons on the other side. Again, the design experience is limited to my architecture firm. So if I'm an architecture firm that is focused on high-rise towers, then my lighting designer will be experiencing only lighting for towers because they are not working outside that firm. So their broad spectrum of experience is limited to high-rise towers, all right? Secondly, right, the scope. If I'm an architecture firm, meaning I am only hiring my sub-consultant or my in-house lighting designer for my scope of work. So if I'm doing one part of the tower, they will work on one part of the tower. They cannot work on the complete project, or they cannot coordinate with other disciplines as well. Number three, will be not suitable for projects where independent consultant is required. There are many projects around here, particularly the big scale projects, that do require independent lighting designer, and in-house, it's not possible. Third, will be the design and supply or affiliates. And these are people or lighting designers or independent lighting designers who kind of secretly or under the table work with certain brands. And we have to be open about it because this is the true fact. So what are the pros and cons of these designers? So number one, Very low design fees because you are specifying lights and you're getting some income from in a different manner. That is number one. Number two, it's a turnkey solution. I design and I supply at the same time. Number three, close coordination with all the manufacturers. This is number three. Now look at the cons. Number one, no bidding competition because again, they specify within a certain selection of products. Number two, the more lights they design with, the more they sell, the more they make money. So it's not really for the client's best interest. Number three, constrained design creativity. Again, I have toolkits that I'm working with and I cannot go really outside that. Number four, the selection of products is very limited to these brands. Okay? Last but not least, if you need an independent lighting designer, technically, if this is out loud and clear, they cannot be working on these kind of projects. Right? Fourth, independent lighting designer. Pros, they fairly have an unlimited creativity. You need to do your homework to see who is more creative, suitable for your projects, but they have broad spectrum and open canvas or blank canvas to design in whatever they want. Number two, they're open to specify from any brand around the world and they couldn't care less as long as it's for the project's best interest. Number three, they're very careful about the project budget because they are hired by the owner of the project and the client needs to be happy and they need to make sure that the payment they're getting is exactly where the money goes. So they're kind of the client's advocate to make sure the money goes where it should be. Right? Last but not least, when you have independent requirements, independent lighting designer requirement, this is where they fit legitimately. Now, the cons of having that, number one, the fees appear to be higher, although they bring the cost down a different way. But on paper, there is a design fee, which is not available in all the other three types. Number two, it requires a lot of coordination because they are independent. They have to grab the information and do a lot of coordination with different disciplines. Right? These are the main things. 22. There are 22 lighting design firms in this part of the world. Established lighting design firms that they compete on a large-scale projects. Okay? Now here's the true fact about, but these are my facts. This is my homework. You don't have to believe it, right? These are only my words. So if we break down to the same formula, the lighting suppliers, the in-house, the design and supply, and independent, how many you think compose the 22 firms? 10%, or sorry, 10 out of the 22, which is almost 40 or 45%, are from the lighting supply and manufacture industry. Number two, the second range will be 3 out of the 22 are in-house. And then you have the design and supply, they are around 4, which is fairly good amount still. And the independent on 5. 5 is around 20%, 22% to be specific. 22% of the current industry are independent, although it is known as they're all independent. But this is not the case. But again, these are my facts. You don't have to believe me. All right? So, how to select an independent lighting designer? Now, let's say you have a project and you need to hire an independent lighting designer. Is there a criteria really that I need to follow? Let's start and see the list. It's going to be long. It's going to be your homework. But I guarantee you're going to get someone who will do the job just fine for you. So let's start. Number one, you have knowledge, and that's through education and through association. So I need to have certain education, not as an individual, again, as a firm. You need to have certain education within the firm and some sort of international affiliation to be able to make sure that I'm according to the international standards. Number two, I need to have experience. 3, my project types. You cannot hire someone who's working in hotels only for offices. Usually you don't get the best out of them. Number 3, integrity and non-affiliation. And there are so many ways to control that. I just had to sign last week only 3 non-corruption agreements, right? And these are the language that I'm happy to see more and more in the market. But if that's what it takes to balance the market back up, then so be it. Right? Creativity. You need to be creative enough to add value to the project. You need to have a taste to bring on and make excitement to the space. Personality. Again, what kind of personality you're bringing? A person who's designing a Four Seasons is different than a Radisson, is different than Jebel Ali Resorts, different than a desert resort, and so on. Right? Competence. I need to be competent enough, whether it's going to be by software, the value engineering, on site, and so many other ways of competence. Reputation, you need to have a good reputation. Affordable at the end of the day. I need to make sure I'll be able to pay them eventually, right? I need to be able to communicate and present to you so I make my project succeed and the message gets delivered. The size of my firm. Not every company is the same size, obviously. So big firms typically are used for big projects. Now, what's the advantage of a big company? They work on many projects, so they have broad experience. What's the advantage of a small company? They give it a lot of love to every single project because it's very endearing to them. So it's really, what do you want? You want somebody who's more in the broader experience, or you want somebody who's give you all these little attention to every single detail in the project, okay? Geographical location. Am I based here, or am I based in Atlanta, or am I based in Georgia, or am I placed in Saudi, or Bahrain, or London, or whatever that might be? Diversity of designers is very important. You don't want to always deal with a one-letter designer with a one style. You want to have a mix-up of designers and creative elements and minds within the firm to add value to your projects. So there is a long list, right? But what value those guys? So if I do this homework and I decide what I want or I don't want, what I'm going to get out of this? So let's see. So a lighting designer can do this. They will design based on the projects and the user's best interest. They will promote the health and well-being. They will design to budget. They will be enhancing the aesthetics of the project. They will be coordinating with all disciplines. They will help creating the user experience. They will mitigate any impact on the environment. They will bridge the gap between the design and the engineering. They will ensure that the light meets the design intent, or the specification meet the design intent. And they will contribute all in all in the success of a project. So there is true value from what you're paying here and a lot of cost saving, but it's not on the initial paper. But in the end of the day, there is significant cost saving, right? So that really just walk you quickly through the landscape of lighting design in the Middle East, right? And I hope no one gets offended on it, but these are, again, my facts and my researches. So now let's start the presentation. So today we're going to talk about design thinking. Anybody's aware of the term design thinking? Raise of hands, please. Amazing. I like how most of people are raising their hands like this, just this the palm, you know, just a finger up. So, all right, so design thinking, for those of you who don't know it, by the way, it's going to be one slide. Right? So it's not a lot of things to do. It's more thinking than talking, right? So there are 6 elements of design thinking. It can work anywhere in your life, anywhere. So try to grasp it once and for all. Number 1 is empathize. What do I mean by empathize? I have a project, I need to start going out there and make a research. What kind of client it is, what do they do, where are they based, what kind of customers they have, what kind of products do they sell, blah, 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 blah. Number 1. Number 2, define. All right, I did my research. Now, what are the problems? What are the issues? Now I'm defining the problem and the issues with this project or with this client or the challenges. That is step number 2. Step number 3 is ideate. All right, I learned all this about it. Now let's throw some crazy ideas. Let's just sketch something out. Most of them will not work, but a lot of creative things happen within this stage. Lighting designers spend a lot of effort in the ideate part, but the research is equally important. The more you do research, thorough research, the lesser time you're going to spend, or you'll be more effective and efficient in the ideate stage. And then you go to the prototype. All right, let me test these ideas. Working or not working? If I'm doing step 1 and 2 really well, 3 will be much better, and 4th, you don't have to test so many times, okay? And then you go to the actual test. So you're doing some mock-ups, some testing, and then you take it to site and making sure everything is working good. And once you give it the good to go, you implement. These are the 6 steps of design thinking. I told you now in the construction industry. You can take it in anything. Cooking, right? You can go ahead and see what kind of keto diets are there out there. That's number 1. Number 2, you make the research, what is good for you, what isn't. Number 3 will be ideas, what can I add more value to it, come up with a crazy new recipes, and then I'm gonna try it out. I might have stomach aches in many of them, but a couple of them will succeed. Once they do, I can serve my plate. Simple as that, okay? So this is design thinking in general, in nice graph. Let's put it in practice on getting to the mind of lighting designer. So I'm gonna show you now what I call the ultimate cheat sheet. For those of you who haven't seen my ultimate cheat sheet before, I promise you, it's pretty much 15 years of things put together. I will tell you when I want you to take a picture of it. Don't worry about it. You don't have to write anything down. You can take a picture of it, no problem. And I'm going to take you through a quick just example through images. You're going to sit back and relax and enjoy some of them. But the first cheat sheet is very prescriptive, and I'm not getting into details because it will take hours and very high technical terminologies, which I don't want to bore you with. But number one is choosing the light source, the right light source or the right equipment for my project. And this can take hours, days, or not even years. But I'm saving you time and effort by giving you this list. Right? So very briefly, suitable installation type, recessed, surface mounted, or whatever that might be, okay? Or recessed, surface mounted, adjustable, wall mounted, etc. Number two, proper color temperature. Number three, the dimension has to be suitable for my project. Four, the delivered lumen output. I'm not going to stress it, delivered lumen output. Number four, the thermal management doesn't overheat. Number five, I want to make sure that proper accessories are supplied with me. Seven, optimum color rendering. Optimum doesn't mean it's good. Optimum means it is suitable for my project. It doesn't have to be 98 to be good. 80 can be better than 98. But what is optimum for my design? That's another story. I'm happy to discuss it with you separately. Right? The color consistency. I want to make sure that all the colors of the lights are matching my requirements. Lifetime and depreciation. I want to make sure that not after 6 months, whoop, everything falls down. Without mentioning brands, because I can talk from today to tomorrow about brands that wouldn't last more than 6 months. Acceptable beam angle. What is the beam angle? You can tell me 20 degrees, 30, 40, 50, but a lot of people in this room know me really well, and they're very careful when they show me a product that is narrow beam or not a narrow beam, because they know what can be acceptable or what's not before we see it. And then, suitable and compatible driver. That's a big part of the specification. You want to make sure that it's part of your specification. Efficacy. What level of efficacy is it? The lumens per watt, basically, another important element. Glare, visual comfort, and flicker. You want to make sure that all these elements are ticked so you don't get any surprises in your design eventually. IP rating, IK rating, UV resistance, and corrosion resistance. You miss one of those, you can be lawsuit and your company can be closed for the rest of your life. So this is a very important element to consider as well, right? Last but not least, certificates. No matter which brand in this fair or outside this fair, if it's in Germany, if it's in England, if it's in Italy, if it's in US, certificates is what make everything counts. So whatever I'm telling you, either I give you a certificate to prove it to you, or you do your research behind me. But you don't take words for granted. So all these yellow items have certification globally from independent firms or independent laboratories or third-party laboratories to authenticate and prove anybody's words, mine or anybody. And that's the true value and the true essence of a warranty. Warranty is not a paper. You need test certificates to prove that, all right, by professionals and third-party, all right? So this is, in general, the specifications. Anybody wants to take a picture, or everybody took of that? Because this will be something that you don't want to miss. So if anybody wants to take a picture of that, because this session is not going to be broadcasted anyway. Okay, let's move on. So, number two, and this is the second one on all, by the way, but this is going to be a little bit intense, right? So, key design consideration. We're going to talk about what are the things that lighting designers think about, and let's be inspired a little bit. So I want you just to relax and just listen to a little bit of the story behind all these pictures. So, by the way, these are not numbered because every project, which part is important first. Sometimes, some projects, health is more important, others, the lighting layout is more important, the efficiency is more important. So they are not categorized or prioritized in any sort of manner. That's why they're not numbered. Number one here, I'm just for the sake of curating you through it, is the lighting layout. What kind of layout I want to go with? Here in this case, I went with linear lights to be able to combine all the surfaces together and have nice and clean and neat ceiling, okay? But let's take it as simple as a corridor. All of us have been to a corridor. This corridor has a downlight right in the middle of the center of the corridor. The second is by two lights, not one, and it's still lighting the corridor, but it's totally different. Number three will be asymmetric distribution. So three ways of lighting a simple corridor, and each one is different. Which one is right, which one is wrong? You're the designer, you have the taste, you have different opinion, you come up with your own idea, but there is no one way to go through it. But you need to think what kind of layout. Number two is the project challenges. What kind of challenge you're facing? Is it a heritage project? Is it a renovation project? It's a mega-sized project. And all these are huge challenges that as a designer you need to deal with early on. And the earlier you observe it, the better. Third is identify the user and the client needs. Anybody knows the name of the store? Anybody? Louder, please. Huh? Louder. Well, someone said Apple. Although I put a banana there. So how do you know it's Apple? Because you've been there, or because you kind of experienced before, or they kind of put a brand out there that no matter what they do, even if they remove their apple and replace it with a banana, you still say, no, 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 my eyes are wrong, it's an apple, right? And this is the power of identity, right? And you need to speak the same language, and you need to do your own research to know that, yeah, maybe I'm just a little bit hazy, it's actually an apple, I wasn't seeing really well, right? So this is the kind of involvement you need to get to understand your clients. You design a Waldorf Astoria. Maybe some of you have been to Waldorf Astoria Hotel, maybe you haven't. But for those of you who haven't, you need to start to understand, this client, what's interesting about this project? What's unique? Well, did you know that they have something called the iconic clock? Well, without knowing that this is the most important and the essence of a Waldorf Astoria, you wouldn't start the design from this way. You will be taking it as any other project. So you need to look from their essence, their character, and you build your story on that. Right? Similarly, if you're going to the hospital, who is your core essence? Human-centric again, right? But here, patients and doctors as well. So you need to account for that when you're designing your project, for fatigue, tired performance, and so on. Then comes the lux level, the engineering part, the performance part. Do I need light levels? Yes, you do. Because you want to make sure that the place is functional properly to most extents from a performance point of view. Then comes the contrast and adaptation. Contrast, another word for it, excitement, right? Another language lighting designer speaks. So why do I need contrast? To create exciting moments between one point and another. Try to start to navigate people through the space, all right? Contrast and adaptation, very important in retail. I need to have certain level of contrast for interest, but too much contrast gets your eyes to be tired. So I want the people to stay here as long as possible. High contrast, too high contrast makes people tired and leave. So you need to make studies to understand the human behavior in a space. Contrast and adaptation. If you don't know what is adaptation, how the eye works, the contrast, how it works, you will, when you design a beautiful store, one of those, right next to a day-lit environment, when you step in, it will take you 10, 15 minutes for your eyes to start to adapt. No one stays in a boutique store for 10, 15 minutes without seeing. They will step out, you will lose on sales. Viewing angles. Where am I looking at my object from? What is my object? It can be my TV in my house. It can be an artwork in a museum. It can be a patient in the hospital. Many things. Without it, I don't know where I'm going to place my lights. As simple as in my office, I'm writing. If the light is behind my back, I will cast shadow on my body, on my paper. I'll not see. Viewing angle is very important to determine the design. Flexibility. Many offices are now have a moving desk, exactly like the same room we're in right now. Now we have a 10-table setup. Tomorrow it will be 20, it might be 5. There has to be some sort of flexibility to allow for that. Flexibility is very high, in high demand in restaurants, because again, the tables keep moving all the time. Lighting controls and scene settings, crucial for the success of most of the global projects. Nowadays, there's no brainer. You can use your iPhone, you can use your tablet, you can use your voice, bring the lights on and off. It is not the future, guys, believe me. It's actually getting to be the past, so you better jump on the wagon and get hold of that. Efficiency. You can design an office like this. It's not so bad. It gives you the light levels you need, right? But you need to be more efficient, right? So I need to bring light only where it's needed. I don't have to throw the lights wherever I want. So if you look at this image and the previous image, in this case, we're consuming way less power, light only where it's needed. And I'll give you another example. Look at these two images, both same museum, both lit, each one has its own flavor and style. But if you determine it by the factor of efficiency only, guess what? The image on the right-hand side consumes 80% less power. And both of them LEDs, don't get me to the fluorescent part and stuff. All of them are LEDs. But because you design efficiently, you consumed less 80%, right? Visual comfort, glare, and flicker, it can make and break a project from offices to retail, to all sorts of things. Similar to here, hospitality as well. If you have the lights, obvious thing, lights above the bed, pillow, just don't do it. It's simple as that. But you have to be careful in that in your design as well. Visual comfort is important. Indirect lighting is also good. Sometimes you need that comfortable and convenient environment. You cannot afford being in a retail store where you get this kind of blast. You get this memory that I don't want to be in this store. It's just unpleasant. Get me out of here. The mood. Lighting designer can set the mood. Not only the interior designer. We can set moods as well. And lighting design can create these kind of environments. They can also create that, the coziness, gather people around one table. I don't know what's going on. What's happening? Anyway, yeah, so lighting designers do that. That's clearly not a music designer of any sort. But yeah, lighting designer can add this mood and experience to any project. They also have it for interiors, but also exteriors. Do I want to create that warmth and cozy environment where I bring every people around? Back to Apple Store. And it's interesting, because I mentioned before, hierarchy is very important. For those of you who don't know this story, Apple is very specific in hierarchy, and they want to make sure that when you buy an iPhone, you also buy an iPad, you also buy an iWatch, you also buy an Apple TV, and so on. So they don't favor one product on another. And that's why the hierarchy in Apple is almost zero. Everything is equal to them, from the smallest accessory to their iMac. You get it? And this is the one thing you need to study when you talk about the client needs as well. Okay? But sometimes hierarchy has to do a lot with the storytelling. I want people to come in here and sit around the table and enjoy the environment. I don't want them to be carried away by the environment outside and don't enjoy a nice, cozy environment around my dining table. Okay? Hierarchy, again, where I'm navigating people, my eyes. Here you see the focal point, the golden artwork in the middle. This is my focal attention. I want to draw people to it. I want to create that level of excitement. Similar to the Bulgari store here as well. It is that sparkle element that as soon as you step into the store, you know you're in a luxury department. And this is one of the things that they play around with emotions of customers. Similar to here, that's a feature staircase. I want to create that wow moment, and hierarchy plays a massive role there. Okay? Materials and colors, we have to look at that as well. We need to make sure that the materials and colors are spot on, and we don't leave a room for coincidence. There's a big difference. One small mistake can ruin or make a project extremely exciting, either very flat or very textured. Okay? Without studying the materials. On the right-hand side, take it as a Nike store. On the left-hand side, take it as a Timberland store. If they mixed up the color temperatures, because there is no professional, the whole sales fall down. Right? Similar to Louis Vuitton. You have to make sure that it is exactly matching the character of these kind of stores. We've done a lot of research for the Louis Vuitton chain in general, and believe me, every single perfume they have, they made tests on what kind of lights goes in it. So your experience in Sephora, it's very curated to reach that Chanel perfume there, to actually grab it. It has a lot of studies towards it, particularly with lighting, and that's why we need to study the products really well. Whether it's going to be just a flat artwork, two-dimensional on a wall, but guess what? The painting on the left-hand side, if some of you don't know it, it's 500 years old and costs $450 million. If you put the wrong lighting on it, not even suing you will work. That will be the end of you and the whole lineage of you moving forward. It's just a lot of value to it. But lighting designers have that trust to create that level of experience for simply 2D art. But it can be 3D as well, objects, and you want to make sure how to model spaces, and lighting is the element that can make or break an object. Safety and navigation, I need to make sure of that as well. So not only you guys are seeing really well on the tables, but I need to be able to navigate fairly safely between the tables as well. Here as well, you see on the floor here, the light levels needs to be sufficient enough so people won't trip. And safety is still very important. Budget, the common question. But you need to be creative as well. It's part of your creativity. Because in many cases, you need to come up with a beautiful design that everybody will be like, wow, it's amazing, very well done. But sometimes you need to be creative as well and be minimal, because the client simply doesn't have the budget for it. So you need to work around that. So it's not, oh, I don't have enough budget, so I will not design for you. No, you need to just evoke a little bit your creativity and see what you can do about it. And there's so many nice examples where with just minimal budget, you can do the job just fine. In fact, many projects and many competitions around the world, they give award for low budget designs, right? Vertical or cylindrical illumination. This is the most, for me, from my design point of view, this is the most important. When I walk in, I see primarily vertical elements. So I need to make sure it is lit properly or not lit, depends on really the design intent. Here, for instance, that's bookshelves. You need to consider that. This is another important element. We all have kitchens or have been in a kitchen of some sort. If you don't think about vertical illumination, you will never position your downlights nicely and comfortably centered within the cupboards. You probably didn't see it until I told you that, but it's just very convenient in the eye when you see that things are symmetric. And not only that, functionally, when you open the cabinet, the light shines properly on the product inside. So these are the small things. If you look only in two-dimensional, you'll never design a space properly. Okay? Again, for vertical illumination, if it's a 2D art, or it's going to be even a 3D sculpture that you need to work towards. But you will never design it properly unless you ask the question and start looking at the space in 3 dimensions. Other important element that started to get more and more interesting over time is facial illumination or vertical illumination for the faces. It has been really important for beauty salons and for cosmetics and for powder rooms, but not only that now. Now we have this in offices now. I need to be able to communicate with my staff really well. I want to make sure that their faces are looking quite all right. If it's in a hotel, I need to see the receptionist in a friendly way, similar to a nurse in a hospital. But the office world is now changing. It is not anymore overhead lights only. You have a lot of front illumination because we all have been on Zoom and on Teams and on GoToMeeting and. So these will coming in the new guidelines, not 2022, but 2023. And talk about all the things that you need to consider for front illumination for Zoom calls. Okay? Influence of daylight. If you don't ask the question, is there a daylight in my space or not, you might miss the whole point. And no matter what you design, it's not going to work. So you have to ask the question, is there a daylight or not? And you design around that as well. Daylight, you can be in your benefit. In this case, museum lighting, most of it is daylight because it's working through the daytime hours, and it's working beautifully. Understand codes and all this literature, because there are many of them, I tell you. And it gets complicated and it gets updated constantly. So you need to be either aware or your firm needs to be aware of all these requirements. So you see how many things we need to juggle between. Installation and maintenance. I need to make sure things are installed nicely, installed properly. Where is my driver going? Where is my product going? Where is my wiring going? All these things you need, these fine little details. It's going to make a project from normal or mediocre to an exception one. Last but not least, again, what product are you using? Is it suitable or not? Is it suitable for the rain? Is it suitable from an IP rating? Can I drive over it? Can I walk over it? Is it UV resistant or not? Does the sun will affect the performance and the aesthetics of this product or not? Will it get corroded or not? All these things you need to make sure do not leave room for coincidence. All right? So these are all the elements I put together for you. And this you take away, and I promise you, I guarantee that probably 99, if not 100% of the projects you ever gonna work on, it will not get out of here. Ever. And if it does, please email me or let me know, because I would love to add more to it. But from my years of experience, that covered everything. Okay? So take it, use it, and always evaluate on these terms, and some of them will be more important, some of them might be irrelevant slightly, but you have to ask the question. Even if it's in this room, you need to ask, will there be sunlight? No, there won't be. Well, I had to ask, because it's part of my mental checklist. You got it? I'm done with the information. Now, I have a quick exercise that, believe me, all what you're going to do is that you're going to look at a small plan, and what you're going to do is you evaluate all these elements as how important it is in your project. So, and if you don't mind, can we distribute this quickly? Because we still have a little bit of time, we can do that. Anybody has any questions before we do the exercise? And believe me, the exercise is going to be fun, it's going to be so relaxing, and I'm going to walk you through my approach to it. And it's per table, by the way. And by the way, you're not allowed to leave the room. At this point, you are bound to the seats, and you're going to be held to this exercise. It's going to be simple, it's going to be fun. It's not going to take you more than 10 minutes, and it's collaboration between the people on the team. All right? So my colleague and good friend Anna here will be distributing a couple of papers. I'm going to explain what is that about, and we can move forward. So, no, nobody looks at the paper now. Look with me for a second. So today we're designing a retail store. You need to listen to me carefully because the riddle falls within my words, okay? So, we're designing a luxury retail store in Mall of the Emirates. It's a very high-end fashion store for ladies. It's quite expensive, and I'm the client, and I'm pretty rich, so I can do whatever I want. I don't mind the product price. It's not about that. It's about I want a beautiful design. The dress costs between 20 to 25,000 euros. Shoes will between 15 to 20,000 euros. So I couldn't care less about your stupid lighting. Okay? I care about that my product succeeds well, all right, and sells well. More information. All my dresses and my shoes are very colorful. Broad colors, so many colors, and I have a lot of shelves, and I have very high-end VVIP dressing rooms. So I need to make sure that they are relaxed and enjoy their time quite right there. I don't care much about how visible is the POS, or point of sale, because I want people to come in and spend time. I don't want them to get out immediately. So I'm not looking for over-excitement where they're going to pay. I want it to be very subtle and smooth. But I don't want to see a lot of visible lighting everywhere. Try to make sure it is good amount of light. My staff needs to be comfortable. But most importantly, because it's in Mall of the Emirates, as I'm walking down the corridor of the mall, I need my displays to pop out nicely. All my display windows need to pop out nicely because I need to draw attention from the retailers right and left of me. Okay? So this is the facade of my store. Okay? This in the middle there on both sides, flanks, is golden screen with three-dimensional stars. So the stars is not flat, it's kind of tweaked back and forth. Okay? The mannequins will be on both sides. The mannequins will be seen only from the front. I'm not interested in the mannequins seen from the back. This is an overview of how the store looks like. And you will have a picture of it in the A3 you're looking at. You can flip your A3 to kind of relate. So you will see this kind of model there. If I walk you through it, I'm walking through the store. Okay, you see the shelves on the left side, these curved elements, and then you have this, all the mannequins. You see the white displays? These white displays are not movable. All the other displays are movable. The white ones aren't. Okay? My floor is wood, and I have this detail. You see the image on the top right? This is detail you're going to get on the very top. You see the white cornice there on the top near to the ceiling? That is the detail we're having there. So there is a room where we can put lights there if you want to. If you don't want to, by all means, you're the designer. I'm just the owner of the store. Okay? This is kind of a palette of the materials we're looking at. So it's kind of a little bit warmer than colder. Okay? And this is your exercise. This is the page you have right there, just for you to navigate through. I'm walking in, and you find these columns, and the dressing rooms are on the top right and top left. The stock room is a back of house, the one on the top left. It's a back of house. Don't worry about it. I need you for the more important stuff. I will take care, my engineers will take care of the back of house. For now, take care of the front of house area. So that is your exercise. You have two papers in front of you, am I correct? The A3 one is a plan, and the second one is the cheat sheet, the checklist. Am I correct? Everybody has that? You have one only? Guys, where's the other one? Everybody has two paper or one paper only? Two. All right, even if you don't have, as long as you have the A3, because I'm going to bring back the slide where I have the... Yeah, there you go. So I'll leave this. What I need you to do is that you ask the questions between you as a team, from these elements, what is important for this project? And scale it. Tell me, this is 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or anything you would say. For instance, I'll give you a tip. Vertical illumination, is it important here or not? Sorry? It is important, right? So I give it a high importance, maybe 7, 8, 9, and I would recommend that there are track lights, there are spotlights to shine on the displays. That's it. That's what I need from you. I don't need you to design, to place the lights where they are. This is not the point. The point is to go through these questions and rate them of what is important, and if something you think, I would like to put this here to contribute to that value, so be it. One last thing, there is no daylight coming to that space. All right? Let's get started. You guys have only 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes tops, and then I'm going to walk it through my way, and then you're released. All right? See you in a bit. Right, guys, thank you very much for sticking in. I appreciate that. Sticking around, so that's really good. So very well done. I think most of you covered everything spot on, honestly. And I think your design thinking is already there. The questions are clear. But it's just much more helpful that you have a checklist of things to go through, that you don't miss out anything. And as I went through many tables, some of you are more, they are not really sure that this word comprehends with the way they design. So some of you interpreted some of the wording in a different way in their mindset, which is absolutely fine. This is my own way, which can get you to a certain direction of how you design your own space. So this is the project again. Let me walk you through our elements here, remember? And I will tell you how we designed it. It was some time ago, but let's see if we are thinking a little bit on a similar direction. So all the elements on the left-hand side, the plan is on the right-hand side. So let's start by the following. We had 3 lights at the entrance, okay? 3 lights, you see 2 red and 1 blue. In general, we're going with a combination of 3s, and I will explain why. We're going to 3. The reds are narrow beams, and the blue is a medium beam, okay? Narrow beam and medium beam. Blue is medium beam. Right, so when I'm doing this, what do I create? I create contrast. So when I'm going down the corridor, I draw some people's attention to something is happening here. That is number 1. We're starting by this kind of layering. Number 2, we have track lights along the shop front. What does this do? Identify the user and the client needs. How? I told you it's color for dresses, so I need to make sure that the spectrum of the LEDs inside can cover the colored dresses, number 1. Number 2, I want to draw people's attention, so I need to have enough front illumination to attract people as they walk down the corridor. Done. Next is light levels. Again, it's the vertical illumination part, but in general, the light levels compared to the mall corridors. So you need to ask the mall, what is the light levels on the corridors outside? Number 3 is the contrast and adaptation. I need these mannequins to pop out, so I need proper punch of lighting. 4, viewing angle. I told you it's only from the front, not from the back, which means that the lights, the track lights, need to be a little bit in front of the mannequin, not above it, not behind it, to avoid the shadows. So it needs to be slightly towards the front, okay? And to make sure that lights are not aimed outwards, so people walking down the corridors won't be glared, okay? Flexibility. Track light, so when the mannequins keeps changing, I'll be able to move things around. And then I have the visual comfort and glare and flicker. All these things I have to consider them so the light doesn't shine into people's eyes. Materials and colors, we studied this very well to make sure that the light fixture used will display the materials at its best. Now comes the vertical and cylindrical illumination. Mannequins, don't take these for granted, by the way. These are really complicated, like sculptures. Yeah? So it's a three-dimensional. You don't want harsh shadows. You want it to look beautiful because people say, I want to look like this mannequin. So it's kind of a role model for many people. So all these things were covered just by the track light of the entrance. But we need to carry this forward in other parts of the store. Now, in this case, we went with, remember this detail with the little bit niche on the top? So we put tape light there to give it a little bit of glow. And in the circle here in the middle, there is a cove light that we want to create a centerpiece. What did this do? The material, this nice texture, we kind of highlighted it. The vertical illumination of this surface, and we created a nice detail, so we had to think of where the drivers go and where the integration becomes seamless. And then comes all these elements. These are basically the contrasts, the main elements of accents. So we put all these lights, so you see all these groups of lights, and these are to light the mannequins, like a museum, yeah? So it has to have this vertical illumination. We need to make sure that the viewing angle is clear, so when I'm standing looking at the mannequin, there is no light and shadow from my own body casted on the mannequin. That it has to be a hierarchy. When I enter in, I have to be, wow, something really impressive. I'm stopping here because something drew my attention. Materials, again, the texture, you're going to see it in images afterwards. Vertical illumination is very important for all these mannequins, right? The contrast and identifying the user needs and the clients. I told you I'm a very high-end client, so I need a sense of luxury. So I need to start putting some decorative elements in the project. And this is where I have this pendant in the middle, the round element in the middle, and I have over there where the VIP changing room, I also have another decorative element, okay? Moving on to the next layer will be integrated lighting. So the light on this little line on the right-hand side is lighting integrated within the mirrors. There are a lot of mirrors there. Light integrated within the mirrors. On the top, where the changing rooms are, these round circles, these are wall sconces on both sides of the mirror to bring front illumination, because it's really important. That covers what? Covers the luxury experience for the client. I'm giving enough light levels where I need to. The viewing angle is really important. Am I standing this way in the mirror? Am I standing this way? This is how we plan the lights. Visual comfort, I cannot be looking at the mirror and my eyes are glared, like the way I'm standing right now. Vertical illumination and also cylindrical. It's not only vertical, it has to be cylindrical so I can see myself really well all around. And the installation that it's integrated really nicely. These three curves on the left-hand side are lights embedded within the shelves. If you look at your 3D next to you, there are the shelves on the left-hand side. They are recessed, and we had light embedded to light the merchandise. Okay? Remember these? I told you these are fixed showcases, which allows us to hardwire them and put cable through them. If they are movable, we cannot put a cable. So this gave us the opportunity, because these are jewelry boxes, so allowed us to put some lighting embedded within them. So fixed showcases give you that advantage, right? And this is the layout we went with. Why did we go with this layout? Number one, there was a lot of ceiling surfaces that we had to align and make sure it's not scattered everywhere, so we had to group them. That's number one. Number two, the brown material of the floor absorbed a lot of the light. Not only light levels, this is a reflected light. It's something called luminance, it's another story. But it absorbs a lot, similar to the carpet you have here. Although it is kind of bright, but it absorbs a lot of the light. Doesn't bounce much off. So you need a lot of equipment to provide that light levels. So hence the number of equipment. Number three, we group them in three so they won't be spread out and it will be so busy ceiling. So we kind of try to group them as much as possible to have as clean and neat ceiling as much as possible, while positioning the lights in locations. If you look at the two on the left-hand side here, sorry, we don't have a laser, I don't know why. So these two here, to light this showcase, or this display, and the other side as well. So we had to make sure that the vertical shelves are really lit properly. So all these elements are put together, and this is where we design thinking and coming up with this list. And so what did we do now? We've done the research, we made the survey, we identified the problems, we threw crazy ideas, we made some tests, and we threw it out there, and we started implementing them, and let's see how the project eventually would look. So that is the story eventually, how it looks like. Very vibrant colors. The sparkle material of the screens on both sides was enough to comprehend to, as you walk in, wow, something is happening. It's not a jewelry store, but something attractive is going on there. At least I want to look. That is number one. Number two, you see the colors. That doesn't come with coincidence. That's a lot of research and literally checking the dresses, how they look like, how they react to different materials, and the spectrum of light comprehends that. Similar to the vertical illumination, you see, they're pretty much on a museum level kind of lit. Third would be, again, the vertical element. You see this niche detail I told you about? This is where the little small details that can try to bring the place together. Vertical elements also for shelves, all these lighting for shelves, because if you don't put that, the lights in the ceiling will cast shadows from the shelf above to the shelf below. Now, I think the pictures speak for themselves. These are not touch photos, and you can literally feel the materials. And this is, again, by using certain light fixtures, certain beam angles, gone through a lot of tests, a lot of trials and errors. By the way, we don't get it from the first time quite all right because no one is perfect, and we learn from our mistakes. But to reach that point and you feel the texture, you feel every even wrinkle there because of the angles and positioning of all these lights. And flexibility is really important to play around with all these. Okay? So here is kind of the spectrum of things. You see the ceiling, despite having a lot, but I'm not drawing your attention much to the ceiling, although there are tons of this equipment. But it's primarily I'm keeping your focus where it should be. And hierarchy here comes in play. I'm controlling where you're looking by trying to help out and coordinating with the different disciplines. It's not a one-man show. You need to start working with other people as well to reach these kind of results. Okay? You see the focus, you see the accents on certain products and merchandise. Now here we tested a lot with the jewelry, and we had to go with the very cold color because we understood that the jewelry displayed over there is primarily diamonds and nothing in the gold. So we had to stay with the 6,500 Kelvin, and this was a kind of a drive from the client, but it gave that proper accentuation on these showcases and integrated light. I didn't want to take you the exercise through the shelf lighting because it would take us way longer time. But again, you see the mannequins, each mannequin is pretty much like coming out of a museum. The three-dimensionality is really crucial to make this experience that is provoking and exciting and make people want to come here again. Okay? Lighting only where it's needed. Remember that. Look at the previous slide. See? Where it counts. I'm not coming in to appreciate the floor. I'm caring about the vertical elements and the products and merchandise. All right? See how the shelves integrated, no reflections from the LEDs inside, just to make sure that the pop out is nicely. I know the stool is there. Let's give it accent because it's part of the artwork in the space. Right? And this is the VIP changing room. Right? And it's important to create the sense of luxury through a baccarat sconces on both sides of the mirror, halo lights on the mirror. I don't want to have a downlight, the obvious stuff. It's not an education for how to light a place. It's just a downlight to avoid, don't want to have a downlight to avoid any harsh shadows. Just a simple downlight to pop out the redness in the space, but just subtle. And if another one downlight is needed, it's on the left-hand side to give a little bit importance where I'm going to hanging my own dress. Here's again, these are the premium shoes selection. So the viewing angle was very important. Where am I standing? Where am I looking? Because believe me, it's no coincidence that this shoe at this time of the year for these particular customers will be displayed in this position to allow for this sparkle on the shoes to draw people's attention. Because it takes only few seconds to convince somebody to pay almost 100,000 dirhams for a shoe, right? That's pretty much the whole exercise today. So I hope you guys found it useful. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you all. Thank you.